All American Gunslingers presents Ubaldi Reports.
This is John at Ubaldi Reports, the one podcast that provides fact, not fiction, on issues facing America domestically and internationally. And just now we're doing something different. We usually start at 7:30, but because we got kicked off TikTok last week, we're back on. But then we're also going to do something different to all those who are on Twitter Spaces. We are now on Twitter Spaces. And just to introduce ourselves, my name is John Ubaldi. I'm a 30-year combat Marine who fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. My other co-host is Joe Bitts, who spent about 8-9 years in the Marines. He's a combat vet from Iraq who was wounded in Iraq. And then another Marine Corps veteran is Ray Krause, who also is a big Second Amendment, owns his own company that deals with gun rights and gun accessories and gun weaponry.
Fixes guns, too.
And he fixes guns. So we normally talk about issues that are trending in the news, but today we're going to do something, what kind of follow up what's going on this month is America's culture wars. And this all centered around what happened about a month or two ago when Dylan Mulvaney did his commercial with Bud Light, and Bud Light's stock prices tumbled where they lost over $20 million in value. Then you had Target pushed its Pride collection, but the biggest one, and this was coming from a vice CEO of Target, is when they did their Tuck apparel, was the one bridge too far. But a lot of people complain is they pushed that into the kids section or next to the kids section, or had Pride apparel for children. And I think most people could care less. But when you start to push it onto children, now you're seeing it in the schools where they're pushing LGBTQ issues. No one has a concern with that, but when they push all these issues, and this pushes into the culture wars where everything is either pushing LGBTQ issues or everything is racism, everything is systemic racism.
Were you there? Did you listen? So on The View, they had Tim Scott.
Tim Scott, the senator from South Carolina.
Okay, and Tim Scott is a black Republican, and he was even talking about how he doesn't have a problem with transgender or LGBTQ, but he did say something about how they're trying to indoctrinate their children. And the crowd booed him. I mean, just because he was talking about indoctrinating children. So are liberals, or is the left okay with indoctrinating your children?
They figure that's the next step to get the next generation of voters. You got to start when they're young. And that's why you're seeing, like when Terry McAuliffe lost the gubernatorial race to Glenn Youngkin, I think is in 2021. And that was the issue. Terry McAuliffe was the former governor running to get his seat back. And he stated the parents don't have a say when it comes to the education of children. That should be left up to the educators in the schools.
That's almost like state kind of propaganda, you don't have access to your children.
But that was the issue. There was a state senator in Iowa stated, if you don't want your kids to learn this stuff, then you need to pull them out. We know what's best for your kids, and we need to teach them things that they're gonna need to know on a world or global view. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. What determines that? And then if you look at the scores of education, which I've harped on many times on this, and when they did the National Educational Assessment, the first testing after or post COVID, and it was disastrous. We dropped like a 40-year low in reading and math, and then they did the same one in May where they rated 8th graders, and only 13% of all 8th grade students are proficient in history and civics. And it's worse under the minority communities. As much as these groups champion racial diversity and racial equity, the minority community is just getting decimated when it comes to education, educational standards. One point before you chime in, there's one high school in Baltimore. 77% of those students, and these are primarily minority students, are reading at an elementary school level. So, I mean,
why the lack of focus? Why? So we have a few things. We have the LGBT community, we have the minority, Black and Hispanic community, and they're not really. They're kind of like, oh, we're champions for you, but they're not really doing anything in that regard. They're kind of pushing, say, women, and they're pushing the minority aside, and they're like, hey, LGBTQ, we're all about you right now. What's their goal?
I don't know.
What's their game?
It's a strange thing. I think it's just all about power. It's just they believe in this very lifestyle, and it's it's an anthem. They just against anything else. If you question them, you're a misogynist or you're a bigot. You're whatever they use. And it's kind of ironic. You look at what's going on in some of the urban centers, and it's funny. You had, Bill Maher, and I think Stephen Smith, the sports commentator, just was ripping on these individuals. Look what's going on in Chicago. In the last 2 weekends, close to 20 people have died. So my question is, if they're pushing all these, racial equality and equity and diversity and whatever, why hasn't President Biden spoken at the carnage in the city of Chicago? My question is, and why hasn't the media asked the 3 prominent African American celebrities or former politicians? Why hasn't anybody asked former President Barack Obama or Michelle Obama or Oprah Winfrey? They're always talking about equity and we need to help the people of color. They've been dead silent. Where's Black Lives Matter of Chicago?
Oh, they filed Chapter 11.
The national, but I mean...
Wait. Did you say Black Lives Matter filed Chapter 11?
Well, yeah.
They're broke.
Well, because you
said... But she has money. She spent a lot of money on houses, didn't she?
Oh, the leader. But my question is, why hasn't the media asked these prominent individuals these questions?
So, okay, Ray and I went to the gun store, or the gun show, and I did see something that was like Black Gun Lives Matter, and I was like, ha ha ha, funny. But we were also like in Pride Month, and I'm just trying to think, what if like the LGBT community came out with a shirt that said Pride Lives Matter? Do you think they would get as much flack from like the Black Lives Matter community?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because they're like, you see Blue Lives Matter or something, they'll say, but it's considered systemic racism when you're mentioning another different lives that matter, or
but it's
all lives matter. But now, if the Pride community kind of took that, do you think they would have as much backlash as...
I think they would in one respect, because if you go back to 2008 in California tried to pass, and it passed, but it was overturned by their state courts, that marriage is between a man and a woman. And they also blamed, a lot of the people on the left blamed the LDS church, the Mormon church. And the Mormon church was big on pushing marriage between a man and a woman. Okay, but here's the real reason. But before you go. Here's the real reason why that passed, is because there was more minority voters going to the polls because of Barack Obama. Blacks and Hispanics and a lot of the minority community do not support the LGBTQ community. That's why you look at Pete Buttigieg. He's looking as an up-and-coming Democratic candidate for president, whether this time or next, and he doesn't have a great support in the black community. And one of the reasons could be because he is an openly homosexual man.
All right, so
here it comes.
Political Latino said, Florida and Texas have a higher violent crime rate than Illinois and California.
I would like to know where she got that statistic, because if you look at...
Maybe he. It might sound like a him.
Okay, he or she. I'm sorry, but he or she. But where did you get that statistic? Because if you break it down by city, Austin, Texas, and the person's right.
FBI.
Austin. I would have to look at the FBI crime statistic to see that. But if you look at Austin and Houston have a very high crime rate, but they're also run by Democrats.
Yeah,
but if you pull
other than saying Florida, other than saying maybe like Florida and Texas, can we look at maybe political Latino? Would he agree to say, if they're a blue city or red city? I mean, because that's another. That would be something else to look.
Because someone keeps mentioning the red states have a higher crime rate. And I looked at Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham has been run by Democrats for a number of years. Biloxi, Mississippi has been run by Republicans for a little bit. So I would like to see if you're taking the urban core.
Yeah.
Then we'll have to see from there.
But also for for other people like political Latino and other people that question you, if you're wrong or if you don't have the exact information, what are you going to do next week when you do find out that information?
No, if
after
I
the
know
show?
I'm wrong, I've said it before, I'll repeat it. Said I made a mistake. I was wrong in my facts.
Yeah.
I don't think
Not that you're wrong. You just said you need to get the information, and then we will come back in
just
here.
so I can compare it. But yeah, I mean, I'm not right on everything. But if I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong. No one's perfect. But I try not to put out information as fact if I'm not accurate. And so far, and you just look at some of these urban core,
Okay.
and they are very disastrous.
He needs a little bit of education now, because he's saying city laws are created by the state, and that's not true.
No, that's not true.
It's kind of like the other way around. It's this
City can make federal law supersedes state law and vice versa, but cities can make their own laws. Like look at some of the prosecution of certain criminal activity. That's done at the city level, the local level. Because like murder is not prosecuted on a state level, that's prosecuted at the city level. Now the lawmakers in each given state can change or adjust the law, but when it comes to arresting someone for murder or violent crime, you don't have the state police do it. You have the local police, and the state police will enforce other types of laws.
So, I mean, anything else we got? I mean, we still have to, there's still a lot of ongoing strife, especially within the bigger companies, especially. Do you see as much representation of Pride Month this year that we did last year?
I think you are this month. I mean, going by the former vice CEO of Target, he says other companies have a Pride section. It's just that Target went one step further and used that tuck thing and integrated it close to children. And then you have that fight between transgender men who are now saying they're a woman with Leah Thomas. You've had a couple high school students who are now graduated. They're like 20 or 19 or 20 years old, suing their high schools and the local high school federation for allowing transgender men to run in the female categories.
Now let's talk about that tuck or the binders or whatever they're talking about too, because there's like they're opting for children. Now under a certain age, I can definitely under like if it's under 3 or 4 or 5, I can maybe understand. Yeah, keep that back there. But there are a lot of children come into like a development area after 5, 6. Why not have something like that versus the alternative, which would be their parents taking them to the doctor, getting gender reassignments or scheduling a gender reassignment surgery, getting them on hormone blockers, and that kind of stuff like that, or puberty blockers. I just
want the child. Okay, for me personally, one, you shouldn't be teaching this stuff to kids at a younger age.
But I disagree.
Well, but each kid develops differently. But if you think about this, you take a child. Let's say they're in middle school.
Okay.
They're going through their emotions are running rampant. But if a child can't make a decision to take hormone block, that has the decision be done by the parent.
Mm-hmm.
I want the kid to at least go through the full developmental. Let them make that decision once they turn 18.
Yes, make the clinical decision of I need to start transitioning myself for something that I want. This is something, but I'm just saying, like, if a boy, like, okay, as an example, this was very, very, very young. I go to a daycare, I go to pick up my son, and he's running around in a dress. Okay. And they all know that, he's, big, mean Marine dad and stuff like that. And when I walk in there, they have this look on their face like, oh, crap. And I look at them like, what? Like, no big deal. It's like, it's not a big deal that he's doing something like that. Even if it was fun. If I made it a big deal, it might have turned the tide for something like that.
Is your son on hormone blockers?
No, but I'm just saying this is before we make that decision of putting him on hormone blockers.
But see, there's a point that you just said.
What's that?
You came in, you saw your son with the dress on.
Yeah.
It didn't bother you.
No.
It wouldn't have bothered you. That's your choice.
Yeah.
But when you have children being pushed one way or the other without parents and knowledge, when you hide that things from parents, and when they have throughout the country, it's not all over, but in certain segments, when you have school districts and teachers hiding this from you,
I definitely
you're pushing
agree with that.
it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Most people don't care if this is what you do. Even the one constitutional scholar that I follow, Jonathan Turley, he even stated that he's of all for free speech. This is when it talks about drag queens, doing shows in front of children. He doesn't think his children should be able to do it. Now, there was one person commented, okay, but hold on. One person commented and said, well, if I want to take my child to a drag queen show, I should be able to.
Okay.
And he said, correct, you are able to, because that is your choice. You determine how you raise your children. Like, you've got 3 kids.
Yeah.
One's out, obviously she's out of high school, she's college, she's going to be a teacher. The other 2 are still young. You should determine what, when, and how your child is taught.
Yeah.
Not, we're going to put your son in a dress, but we're going to hide the fact from the parents so they'll never know. Or we're going to do all these gender pronouns. And I've taught young kids in high school, mainly high school. They're not full, even in high school. Some kids you don't want to date. They're just not emotionally ready for that. That's fine. That doesn't make them gay. But when we push them into this, we're starting to get into a very strange world.
I just want you to know that we made it past 15 minutes and TikTok has not shut us
down. Oh, yeah,
yet.
we'll give it time. But, I mean, I just want parents to have a say, and if they determine that's what they want, that's on them. Each parent can raise their child the way they want.
Yeah.
But when you look at the schools beyond this, all through America, when you got, like when our national report card came out last month, when it showed 43% of American children can't read or do math to grade level, and then you go to some school districts like in Baltimore, Chicago, where more than 70% are not reading or doing math capable at grade level, and we're supposed to compete with the rest of the world. And then you go to civics and history, and like I had a disagreement with a customer that came into our shop. I want history to be taught, the good, the bad, and the ugly, not some version of critical race theory which shows that all minorities are victims, and no matter, because we're all white, we're all oppressors. No matter what we do, we're always seen as an oppressor.
I did have a question about that, because I asked for the particular person that you were talking about's race, and he's what?
White.
I don't get that. I don't get why it's mostly middle-aged men and women, white, that are kind of like telling me that I'm messed up because I have a certain belief or a certain ideology. But it's just like, but look, if like somebody of like, if a black person or a Hispanic person or a gay or trans person said something to me like that, then I would probably have a little bit more weight behind it. And I'd be like, okay, maybe I just need to reevaluate maybe my thought process or my standings. But when a white male or female person coming up to me and telling me that I'm wrong, it doesn't do what it should do for me.
I think what it is, and I could be wrong on that, I think it's just like they're trying to assuage their grief of what happened. They're trying to say we're there for the people of color, the minority community. But then you ask them, like you got a lot of the politicians and the liberal elite, especially like in Hollywood, they're all champion Black lives and people of color. But then you look at where they live. Then you look at, they said, like, take Barack Obama. He ran his whole presidency on protecting people of color. Well, black and minority standard of living kind of dropped or stagnated, but it went down under President Trump, supposedly the racist president. And then Barack Obama talks about people of color, but his children got to go to private school. And one of the first official acts that he did as president, he ended a scholarship program that took minority children out of the D.C. public school system and sent them to the schools that his daughter went to. So what did he do? He ended it, and they had to go right back to the decrepit Washington, D.C. school system.
So I did want to mention something. There's I guess his name is Daniel Dish Mama.
Okay.
Okay. But he said he dated a teacher. Good for you, buddy. She told that they lower the standard levels for children's needs to know each year. And I agree with that, because we had our kid's tutor here, and she explained that if you are a minority or you're Hispanic or you don't have you have difficulty speaking English, you're going to get passed to the next grade no matter what you get, no matter your level of, how long you've been in school, you're going to pass irregardless. But
that sounds quota filling.
Yeah, but if the white kids, they get held to a certain standard. And is that beneficial, or what is it?
Well, it's harmful, because the governor of Oregon just signed, I think either last year or the beginning of this year, because they found out not enough minorities were passing to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
So they ended all testing for, math, reading, and other subjects to graduate. So because that's going to help the minority students. And you look at California ended SAT scores testing to get into college.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to help level the playing field. And then New York under Mayor de Blasio, and I'm not sure if Mayor Adams continued, he ended or was going to end the Get Talented and Gifted program because too many whites and Asians were getting in. But does that help the minority students, saying, well, instead of helping you reach here, we're going to drop the bar so you can pass, instead of looking at why don't more minorities who are able to read at a higher level and do math at a higher level and help them get there. And I know there's a multitude of reasons, but lowering the standards hurts the minority student. Because like I said, in that one high school in Baltimore, where 77% are reading at elementary school level. So what are they going to do when they graduate and they're only reading at a 5th or 6th grade level?
But also, according to your research, it's like that through a lot of schools.
Well, it is. But see,
nobody like nationwide, not just
it
like
is.
a certain
It's not
area.
just these
you
areas.
Focus on Baltimore a lot. But
I do on Baltimore, the bigger cities. I mean, as much as people bemoan Florida's going by the Department of Education's last assessment back in October. We're ranked number 11th.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and the way to fix all that, and I talk to a lot of black and Hispanic customers when they come in, because I get to talk politics, and they're all in favor of school choice. They want to take their kids out and send them to a better school. Remember, your wife mentioned about your children. You were able to opt your kids out to go to a better school, and your children are thriving.
Yeah.
So minority kids want a good college education. But if you look at, I was watching a news program. I can't remember the company. There's a company that builds satellites, and what they do is they pick up space junk. And what they do, they're going around protecting the Hubble spacecraft, trying to get the space junk out. And as I was thinking of that, what are we going to do when we don't have enough scientists? We don't have enough engineers or mathematicians to do that.
I want to go a little bit deeper in that. I mean, because right now I think is a good time for parents to kind of get on their kids, especially maybe in the middle school to high school area, is to get them into a trade. We're still going to need like electricians, plumbers, the basic, painters, house builders, that construction.
There's a shortage of
There is a huge shortage, and then basically you're going to wonder why in a couple years it's going to cost you $800,000 to $900,000 to build a house.
Well, the one thing
because the plumber is on back order because he has 10 more houses he needs to do before he does your house.
Well, one point, like with your son, one of the things I spoke to a local congressman and a mayor, and I keep trying to push this, is there should be a three-tracked approach to school education. There should be, like you said, the building trades. We need to focus on that because there's a shortage. Those who want to go to college. And then the third thing is the technological vocational training. There's a program in one of the high schools up in a county north of Hillsborough, which is where Tampa is. It's called Pasco. And they have a drone program where this one student, there's other students, but just for particularly this one, he got a high-paying job working for the Pasco County Sheriff's Department, all because he had the ability to do drones. Not everybody's meant for college. Not everybody wants to go to college. But and I asked a friend of mine who owns a cybersecurity company, and I asked him, I think about a year or so ago, this is at the time Russia hacked into our energy grid. I go, do you need a college degree for this? And he goes, no. All you need is the technical ability, the prerequisite. You'll have the ability to hack.
Yeah.
And he goes, the people that hacked in, they didn't have college degrees, but we have this belief that you have to go to college. Look at most job announcements. Hold on. Look at most job announcements. It's always saying you need college, and we're only going to pay you this amount, like $18, $20 an hour. Why do you need college? You just need the experience. And we have this warped view that if you go to college, you're smarter than someone that doesn't. And I would question that. Look at what we got in our government. They took us into 5 wars. We haven't won one. They said inflation was transitory. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
We're at $31 trillion in debt. We got our banking crisis. We're going to potential commercial real estate crisis.
We're
and
still
these are
blaming the other side.
And these are the geniuses that are who got college degrees.
Does that change in the next 4 years?
No.
Like I'm saying, like in a sense, if the prodigal son returns, okay, and he just goes back to where he started from before he left, is there a recovery? Or are we kind of still in the hole a little bit even after those 4 years?
We're gonna be in the hole because one of the signature issues that Donald Trump pushed was the 2017 tax cut.
Okay.
The tax cut set to expire, I think, in 2025.
Okay.
So like when Donald Trump made a comment, I think it was on a town hall or an interview, said he can fix this economy in 6 months. Well, you're going to need legislation. You can only do so many things by executive order. You can do things on regulation and some things, but a lot of things has to be done by legislation, and you cannot do it in 6 months. So this is going to take some time to undo the damages that the Biden administration did to the economy, and we're still going to feel the effects of it.
It almost seems impossible that someone could do this much damage, but we're just watching it in front of.
Like one of the cases in point, now we're seeing energy prices, oil prices, gas prices at the pump came down because the economy is slowing down considerably. Now there's speculation that, and I even said I thought once we got into the spring and summer driving season that gas prices would go up. But the demand for energy has dropped because the economy's slowing. Now OPEC Plus includes Russia, is going to cut 1 million barrels of oil. So people are expecting that oil prices will go up, but maybe not because the economies are slowing of the world. The UN said this. I think the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, said the same thing. But what's going to happen when demand shoots up? When everything gets back, we're not drilling like we used to. We're not being energy independent. That takes time to restart all that was shut down by the Biden administration. So we got a lot of issues to deal with, but I just wish we had a media that was not partisan or state-sponsored that could actually look at both sides, not just one, both sides, and ask tough questions.
Well, just recently CNN just fired their president, though.
Correct.
Because of what?
Well, there was a couple things
Because he leaned a little too right?
Well, no, a lot of the rank and file who were still very liberal didn't like what he did. I think the big kiss of death came is when they put Trump on a town hall, and a lot of liberals didn't like that because he's spreading disinformation.
They could easily put Biden on a town hall to balance it out. You need fair and balance when it comes to media. You need fair and balanced coverage,
Joe,
right?
listen to what they said. They didn't like Donald Trump on a town hall because he's spreading disinformation.
Yeah.
When CNN and every major network news spread disinformation as it came to Russian collusion, which there is no evidence. There's been many investigations from Robert Mueller to Michael Horowitz, who was the Inspector General for the DOJ, who was appointed by President Obama, and John Durham, and they found nothing to substantiate what they did. And they actually found the FBI and the media ran with every story without doing any due diligence to corroborate the veracity of those charges or those things that he's been alleged of doing.
Okay.
So you've got a lot of issues, and we just don't have that media that we need, and we should have it. That's where the real danger to any republic, especially our constitutional republic.
John, if they want to get a hold of you, how can he do so?
You can get a hold of us by first going to ubaldireports@gmail.com. You can check us out on all our social media programs. If you missed this podcast or you want to hear more, we'll post it in about a day or two, and you can just go to Ubaldi Reports on all the podcast streaming sites, and we're there. So I'd like to thank all the listeners, even those who agreed or don't agree with what I said. I still like to appreciate you chiming in. This is the whole purpose of Ubaldi Reports, is to get people thinking, to have a cordial debate, not getting into the name callings, and you take the information, do what you want with it.
All right.
But I'd also like to recognize Ray and Joe, because they also have a podcast, and let them describe that and what they're doing.
All American Gunslingers, where we talk about the day-to-day of like just Marine BS, but we also talk about whiskey, guns, and our journey of opening up our own gun shop, gun smithing shop, range / Second Amendment mecca.
Yeah. And we could also talk about gun control legislation. There's several federal legislation that we're watching. We just saw that the Third Circuit overturned a massive bill that was signed about 20 years ago or plus, and it was for non-violent offenders. You guys have won your gun rights back. So as long as it's not like a domestic violence or some sort of felony act, as long as it was under a misdemeanor, those gun rights you are allowed to have.
And
Correct.
let's not forget to tell the people that do have a short barrel rifle or SBR, what's it called?
AR pistol.
The things that they're trying to ban,
Braces.
The braces, but now it's
Should-
kind of on hold if you belong to a certain organization.
Yeah, that's getting interesting to watch. So pretty much the judges allowing organizations and their members to be covered under the injunction. So
Yeah.
Gun Owners of America and Firearms Policy Coalition, as long as you are a member of those two organizations,
Come on, NRA.
you are clear for right now in the injunction on the pistol brace ruling. But if you're an NRA member or you just own a pistol brace, you're still technically required to register it for right now.
And
But we'll see how long that lasts.
And just so they know that once the NRA gets that approval, I'm buying a short barrel rifle, even though I don't need one.
There you go.
All right.
But getting back to, we'll be doing this podcast again, back to our regular standard time at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, we didn't get banned today.
And we didn't get banned on TikTok today, so that was a good thing. So we're still doing it every Wednesday, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We're trying to do this every day, Monday through Friday, so keep supporting us, and at one point we will. So till next Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, keep listening to Ubaldi Reports.